The hiring process, Part 1, Recruiting. The hiring process involves recruiting potential candidates, screening of these candidates to determine which will be interviewed, and finally interviewing a subset of applicants to determine which best meet the needs of your organization. In this module, we will be considering recruiting, the first step of the hiring process. Our objectives: upon completion of this module, participants should understand what is meant by the term recruiting. They should appreciate the importance of a job analysis. They should understand the difference between internal and external recruiting. They should appreciate the effectiveness of various forms of recruiting. And finally, they should understand the influence that the recruiter may have on the recruiting process. Prior to recruiting for new employees, it is essential that an organization consider its human resource needs. Specifically, it is important for them to have a clear understanding of the organization's mission, vision, and values. It's also important for them to analyze the need for human resources. This analysis should include estimate of the number of employees that are needed to meet the organization's needs in a cost-effective manner. There are many ways to conduct and develop these estimates. They include judgment of experienced managers, statistical forecasting, and comparison with other communities of equal size. It's important that an organization have a clear understanding of its needs, and that it only engage in the hiring process when it needs to fill a vacant position. Recruiting is the process whereby an organization lets potential employees know that an employment opportunity is available. Prior to being able to recruit for a job position, it is important to have a clear understanding of exactly what is required to accurately perform a job. There are many ways to conduct a job analysis. Some of these include task analysis, in which you actually look at the physical tasks that are required within a position. There are behavioral-oriented analysis that look at the behaviors that are required to be successful in a position. There are specific job element inventories that look at a combination of task and behavioral issues and traits that are important to be successful. Critical incident technique. Critical incident technique is a technique whereby you start out with a blank sheet of paper and you ask individuals that are involved in currently doing a job what it takes for them to be successful in their job. After interviewing several employees, you're able to come to consensus of what are the most important traits. There's also attribute-oriented, in which you look at traits that are important within a job. Threshold trait analysis, again, evaluating traits that are minimally required to be able to perform a position. Depending on the method, the focus is either on job task elements or the personality traits that best meet the needs of a given position. There are several expected outcomes of a job analysis. These include having a clear understanding of the job description, what will be asked of candidates that apply for this position. There's a job summary, what individuals should expect on a daily basis. You would like to develop an understanding of reporting relationships. Who will an individual in this position report to as a superior? Work conditions. Are there any hazards involved in performing this task? And tools and equipment. What tools, equipment, will be required, or understanding of will be required, to be able to perform this job adequately. This could include tasks such as being able to document electronically, operate a defibrillator, or drive a vehicle. It's particularly important to identify job specifications. Job specifications outline the knowledge, skills, abilities, and credentials needed to perform a given function or task within an organization. You may be called upon to assist in a job analysis. If so, some of the questions you may want to consider: what tasks must be accomplished to accomplish the organization's goals? How would you rate the importance of these tasks? What tasks are required to perform these tasks? What skills are required to perform these tasks? What knowledge is required to perform these tasks? Are there any special abilities required? What credentials are required? And what are the physical requirements involved in a particular job? Once you have a clear understanding of the requirements for a position, you're ready to start recruiting. There are two categories of recruiting: internal recruiting and external recruiting. Internal recruiting consists of all the recruiting efforts that take place within an organization. In municipal EMS organizations, this often involves recruiting not only within the EMS division, but throughout the larger municipal government or environment. External recruiting activities are those that take place outside of a given organization. Now let's take a closer look at the various methods that fall into each of these two categories. Internal recruiting can consist of things such as job postings. Quite often, internal job postings are required prior to external job postings, giving internal candidates an opportunity to apply prior to it being open to the outside. It can include job bidding, whereby individuals already in positions have the opportunity to bid for higher or different jobs. Another important mode or method of internal recruiting is supervisory performance evaluations. Here, as supervisors perform annual performance evaluations, they ID individuals that may be appropriate for new positions in the organization. Another form is skills inventory. With skills inventory, we're evaluating the skills of individuals. Again, looking for individuals that may hold skills that are appropriate for different positions within an organization. And finally, our development programs. With development programs, we're actually trying to create the skills and abilities within individuals in the organization to meet the organizational needs. This is frequently done in the form of officer candidate schools. In officer candidate schools, individuals attend developmental sessions, over time learning the skills and the abilities needed to fill officer positions within an organization. Quite often, testing takes place to test these skills and abilities. Individuals that qualify by passing the developmental or officer candidate school evaluations are actually considered for advanced positions within organizations. When internal candidates are not available, there's the desire to obtain an outside candidate for a position. Here it's necessary to recruit externally. There are many external recruiting methods. These include getting direct applicants through walk-ins, recruiting through former employers, calling up previous applicants, employee referrals, newspaper, magazine, TV, and radio advertisements, Internet public employment agencies, private employment agencies, executive agencies, temporary agencies, outplacement firms, trade and professional organizations, such as a state or regional paramedic association, or the National Association of EMTs, high schools, community colleges. Community colleges are a very important recruiting avenue, and that new students are continually graduating from EMS programs through community colleges. Vocational schools, universities, and finally labor unions. So as you see, there's a wide range of methods that are used for our external recruiting efforts. In particular, advertising is one of the most prominent and most frequently used external recruiting methods. When advertising for a position, it's essential that several pieces of information be included in the advertisement. These include a posting of the position title that ideally explains exactly or gives a hint at what the position will actually involve, a description of the essential functions that describe the functions that will be required of an individual, educational requirements. This may include things such as graduation from an accredited EMS or paramedic training program, experience. Some organizations only want to hire experienced EMS providers, especially to crew leader type positions. In this scenario, you may want to advertise that you're requiring at least 1 or 2 years of experience. However, you should be careful with experience. Many organizations find it challenging once that they've developed or integrated experience into their advertising to find qualified applicants. Certification and licensures. Here you may ask that an individual have an EMT or paramedic certification at the state level, or you may ask for a national registry certification. But this could also include things such as advanced cardiac life support certification or trauma certifications. Finally, you want to be very clear about what is required versus what is desired. Clarity around what's required versus desired can be very helpful to you as you start screening applicants to determine who will be brought in for the next step of the hiring process. If we think about the effectiveness of recruiting sources, employee referrals, college recruiting, and executive or search firms seem to be the most beneficial ways of finding employees that match individual organizational needs. This especially is true when you're looking for individuals to fill key roles, management roles within an organization. One final thing we need to mention. Recruiters do influence the recruiting process. The demographics of the recruiter, functional areas, personality, timeliness, realistic job previews, all can be influenced by the individual biases of the recruiter. Recruiters may have unrealistic ideas of what a job actually entails. As an example, a recruiter with a paramedic background may expect EMT applicants to know more than is required or should be expected based on their EMT education and training. So it's very important that the recruiter be keen and keep an eye out for these biases and try to make sure that they're not included as part of the recruiting process. In this module, we've taken a look at recruiting and the role of job analysis. Both internal and external recruiting methods were discussed, and we outlined which methods have proven to be the most effective. Finally, we discussed ways in which the recruiter can bias the recruiting process, and ended with recommendations of how to prevent these biases.